Roberto C. Eusebio versus Civil Service Commission, GR number 223623, January 29, 2020. The facts of the case are as follows. In 2008, Roberto C. Eusebio, then Mayor of Pasig City, appointed Rosalina V. Terona as President of the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Pasig, or PLP, for a 4-year term, which would expire in 2012. Now, despite this fixed term, after his re-election in 2010, Eusebio urged all the heads of offices, including Terona, to tender their courtesy resignations. Terona refused to resign, and Eusebio later terminated her position, citing that she had reached the mandatory retirement age of 70. Now, Terona appealed with the CSC, which ruled in her favor, ordering her reinstatement. Despite the CSC's decision being immediately executory, Eusebio refused to reinstate her, arguing that his appeal against the CSC's decision stayed the order. Now, the CSC charged Eusebio with indirect contempt for failing to comply with the reinstatement order, and he was fined 416,000 pesos for 416 days of defiance. Eusebio appealed to the Court of Appeals, which modified the fine from 416,000 to 30,000, ruling that the fine imposed by the CSC was excessive. Both the CSC and Eusebio challenged the appellate court's decision before the Supreme Court. Now, the issues of this case is whether or not a local government official can be held guilty of indirect contempt and fined for failing to reinstate a terminated university president despite a directive from the CSC and an ongoing appeal, and consequently, whether or not the Court of Appeals was correct in reducing the fine imposed by the CSC on Mayor Eusebio for indirect contempt. Now, the court held that yes, a local government official can be held guilty of indirect contempt and fined for failing to reinstate a terminated university president, despite a directive from the CSC and an ongoing appeal. Further, the Court of Appeals also was not correct in reducing the fine imposed by the CSC on Mayor Eusebio for indirect contempt. First off, in view of the judgment or entry of judgment in GR number 223623, the verdict of guilt for indirect contempt against Eusebio had already lapsed into finality and may no longer be disturbed. Under Section 82 of the Uniform Rules on Administrative Cases in the Civil Service, CSC decisions are immediately executory unless a restraining order or injunction is issued. Appeals do not stay the execution of the CSC decisions. Further, under the doctrine of finality of immutability of judgment, a decision that has acquired finality becomes immutable and unalterable and may no longer be modified in any case, even if the modification is meant to correct erroneous conclusions of fact and law. Once a decision becomes final, it cannot be altered. This doctrine ensures stability in the legal system, preventing continuous relitigation of issues that have been resolved by final judgment. The court emphasizes that the CSC, as a central personnel agency of the government, has the power to enforce its decisions and that such decisions are immediately executory, unless a court issues a restraining order or injunction, which was not the case here. Eusebio's failure to reinstate Terona, despite the lack of such legal impediments, was a contumacious act that warranted the fine. As to the fine imposed by the CSC, the Supreme Court reinstated the original fine of 460,000 pesos, holding that the CSC acted within its authority to impose such a fine for Eusebio's continued defiance of its order to reinstate Terona. The CSC is empowered by Section 4 of its revised rules on contempt to impose fines for indirect contempt. It can fine violators 1,000 pesos per day for each day of non-compliance with its final orders. The attendant circumstances of this case compelled the imposition of the maximum fine of 1,000 pesos per day for the repeated contumacious act committed by Eusebio against the CSC over a long period of 416 days, to be exact.